I should never have agreed to stay with Lina. Her cousin was my ex-girlfriend, but Lina didn't know that yet. No one in her family did. No one in this town could. The night everything began, we were lying in the same bed, facing opposite walls, pretending the lack of space was the only reason we were this close. Outside, the house was quiet. Inside, every rule I had brought back with me was already failing. Lina turned her head toward me and asked, almost casually, "You're not going to make things complicated, are you?" She said it like a joke. Like she assumed the answer. What she didn't know is that this town had already taught me what happens to women like us when things become visible. What she didn't know was that everyone thought she was straight, including her family, including herself. And what she definitely didn't know was that I had loved her cousin once, in secret, and had promised myself I would never put my heart at risk again. I told her no. And that was the lie that started everything. Part 1. I came back to the coast for 3 weeks. That's what I told myself. That's what I told everyone else. The truth was simpler. My contract ended suddenly, the money wasn't stretching the way it used to, and my aunt needed someone on the ground to help finalize the sale of the old family house. Papers. Signatures. Meetings that couldn't be done over the phone. Temporary things. Manageable things. Lina offering her spare room was supposed to make it easier. We weren't close. I knew her mostly by reputation, my ex's cousin, the reliable one, the one who stayed. The one everyone trusted to do things properly. I hesitated before saying yes, long enough to feel the warning settle in my body. But hotels were expensive. Family couches came with questions. Lina came with none. She picked me up from the bus stop in the late afternoon. The sun was still high, the air thick with salt. "You must be exhausted," she said, already taking my bag. "I'm fine," I said. I wasn't. The drive was quiet at first. Not uncomfortable, just careful. She asked practical questions. How long I was staying. Whether I'd need space to work. If I minded sharing a bathroom. Normal things. Her house was busy. Family voices from the kitchen. A television on too loud. Someone laughing sharply at something not that funny. "This way," she said, leading me down the hall. The room she showed me was small but neat. A narrow bed. A single window. "I usually sleep in here," she said. "But I can move to the couch." I shook my head immediately. "No. It's fine. I won't be here long. I can take the couch." She brushed it off, taking the couch, joking that coastal homes had rules you didn't argue with. That first night, I slept alone. She brought extra blankets. I slept lightly, listening to the house breathe doors, footsteps. Someone asking Lina when she was finally going to bring someone home. Her laugh drifted down the hall. Polite. Deflecting. In the morning, she made coffee without asking how I took it. She guessed correctly. Lucky, I said. Trying not to react to the fact that she remembered one of my preferences. She smiled. "I pay attention. You used to come over with Amina, remember?" Amina's name, said like it carried no weight. I didn't correct her. The days settled into a rhythm. I left early to deal with paperwork. She worked from home most afternoons. We crossed paths in the kitchen. Exchanged updates that didn't invite follow-ups. It was easy. Too easy. The first time the bed became an issue was practical. A relative arrived unexpectedly. Bags appeared. Plans shifted. "I can sleep in here tonight," Lina said, gesturing to the room. "Just for one night." "Okay," I said. I didn't trust myself to say anything else. We lay on opposite sides. Fully clothed. The distance between us measured, intentional. "You okay?" she asked after a while. "Yes." She hesitated. "You're very quiet." "So are you." She laughed softly. "Fair." That was all. But the next night, the couch stayed occupied. And the next. We stopped pretending it was temporary. She talked more then. Not deeply. Just honestly. About being tired. About people assuming things. About how strange it felt to be so visible and still misunderstood. I listened. I always listened. One evening, she mentioned her cousin Amina again. Casually. Praised her resilience. Her independence. I nodded, careful. Too careful. "You knew her well, didn't you?" Lina said lightly. Well enough, I said. She accepted that. But something about the way she looked at me shifted. Not suspicion. Curiosity. By the end of the week, sharing the bed had stopped being discussed at all. Our bodies learned the shape of the space. Where not to touch. Where touching didn't need explanation. She fell asleep easily. I didn't. Lying there, listening to the ocean outside, I understood the danger more clearly than before. Not because anything had happened, but because nothing had, and it already felt like too much. Part 2. By the second week, I had learned the rhythm of Lina's house. There were always people moving through, cousins coming and going, an aunt stopping by with something to drop off, neighbors checking in. Doors stayed open more often than not, voices carrying down the hall. Sometimes Lina would step away for a moment, pulled aside by her mother or a cousin for a quick word. I could hear snippets of laughter, questions, reminders, nothing meant for me, nothing I was supposed to know. When she returned, her shoulders were slightly tighter, her smile smaller. She didn't mention the conversation, she simply seemed quieter, like she was carrying it with her. One evening, after a long silence, she sat beside me on the bed and exhaled like she'd been holding it in all day. They think I should start saying yes, she said. To what? To being introduced to suitors. To being serious. To not waiting for something I can't explain. I waited. She always did better when no one rushed her. They say I'm getting comfortable, she added. Like comfort is a flaw. Her mouth curved into something like a smile. It didn't reach her eyes. I noticed then how often Lina swallowed words. How frequently she paused mid-sentence, adjusted, softened. It wasn't shyness. It was calibration. That drew me in more than anything else. Over time, she began to include me without announcing it. She'd ask if I'd eaten before making food. Even when others were around. She'd save me the corner seat at the table, the one with the wall at my back. Once, when a cousin suggested a night out, Lina glanced at me first. Not asking. Checking. I shook my head slightly. She declined the invite. Later, lying beside me in the dark, she said, sometimes I just don't want to explain myself. I knew what she meant. I also knew what she didn't. She talked about men the way people talk about plans they assume they're supposed to want. There was one she mentioned more than once. Someone kind. Suitable. I think I like him, she said one night. Then corrected herself. I think I like that nothing feels complicated with him. I turned toward the wall. That's not nothing. No, she said. But it's easy. She shifted closer, her shoulder brushing mine. You're easy too, she added quickly. I mean, not easy. I mean safe. The word landed exactly where it always did. She slept soon after. I lay awake, cataloging the things she didn't notice she was doing, how she reached for my wrist when she laughed, how she relaxed only when we were alone, how she never once asked me who I'd left behind when I came back to this town. Her cousin came up more often after that. Not pointedly. Fondly. She always talked about you, Lina said once, rinsing dishes. Back when you were visiting. I stiffened. What did she say? That you listened. That you didn't perform. Lina smiled. She said people tried very hard around her. You didn't. I remembered that version of myself. How different she'd been. You spent a lot of time together, Lina added, watching me now. I nodded. We did. She liked you, Lina said. Then, after a pause, she added, I did too. The room went very still. You were different with her, Lina continued. Quieter. But closer. I opened my mouth to deflect. Instead, I said, she didn't let many people see her. Lina's brow furrowed. How would you? She stopped herself. Smiled faintly. Never mind. But she didn't forget. The incident came days later. Someone made a joke about Lina's cousin over dinner, about how she'd always hated this town, how she'd escaped. Without thinking, I said, she didn't hate it. She just hated being watched. The table laughed. The conversation moved on. Lina didn't. That night, she lay facing me. Awake. You knew her well, she said again. Not asking this time. Well enough, I said. She studied my face, her expression unreadable. She didn't press. But the space between us changed shape after that. The house had gone quiet in the way it only did late at night, not empty, just settled. The kind of quiet that made everything feel closer. We lay on our backs, staring at the ceiling, talking the way people do when they don't want the night to end yet. "Do you ever notice," Lina said slowly, "how you don't really choose who you're drawn to?" I turned my head slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, everyone talks about types. What you should want." She paused. "But the people who actually stay in your life never fit that picture." I waited. She was thinking out loud now. "I used to think I wanted someone obvious," she went on. "Confident. Certain. Someone who took up space." She smiled faintly, like she was correcting herself in real time. "But the people I feel calm around are always quieter. They notice things. They don't push." She hesitated. "They make you feel seen without asking for anything back." My chest tightened. She wasn't looking at me, but every word landed too close. "That sounds like a good thing," I said carefully. "It is," she said. "Even though it doesn't match what I'm supposed to want. It's harder to justify out loud." Silence stretched between us. Not empty. Loaded. "That's probably why it never goes anywhere," she added. "I don't know what to do with it when it shows up." Something in me went still. Lina turned onto her side then, facing me. The mattress shifted. I shifted too, instinctively making room. She didn't take it. Her hand settled between us, close enough that I could feel the warmth of it through the sheet. Not touching. Waiting. I told myself it was nothing. That this was how conversations like this ended, with closeness, with comfort. But she didn't move her hand away. "You go quiet like this sometimes," she said softly. "I never know where you go." The question wasn't casual. It was searching. I took a breath, already knowing there was no answer that would keep things where they were. "I don't know," I said. She moved closer. This time, there was no mistaking it. Our knees pressed together. Her hand shifted, brushing my wrist. She stopped breathing for a second. So did I. I became acutely aware of how close her face was, close enough to see the hesitation in her eyes, close enough to feel the heat of her mouth when she exhaled. Neither of us spoke. The space between us collapsed slowly, deliberately. Not a rush. Not confusion. A choice forming before it could be named. I leaned in. She didn't pull away. For one stretched moment, everything was clear. This wasn't comfort. It wasn't habit. It wasn't misunderstanding. It was attraction, mutual, present, undeniable. I stopped myself inches from her mouth. Pulled back before contact, before consequence. The movement was sharp enough to break the moment cleanly. Lina inhaled, unsteady. "Oh," she said. Not surprised. Not confused. Just realizing, at the exact same moment I did, that what we'd been circling had finally shown itself, and that there was no way to pretend otherwise anymore. It wasn't disappointment. It was surprise, like she had felt it too, but only just then. Neither of us spoke after that. We lay there, awake, not touching, the space between us now heavy with meaning it hadn't carried before. Nothing had happened. And yet, everything had. That night, the house was unusually quiet. Even the sea sounded distant. Lina turned toward me slowly, like she was testing the air. "Do you ever feel like you're lost?" she asked. The question hit too close. "Yeah, sometimes," I said. She reached out then. Not boldly. Just enough for her fingers to rest against mine. The next few days neither of us moved away. Not loud. She breathed not in. Dramatic. I felt it on my skin. In a way that settled into every room. I leaned closer before I could stop myself. Lina moved more carefully. So did she. Like she was aware of where she placed herself. There was nothing else. She laughed, but no cousin, no family, no rules. When she sat near me, just the weight of everything unspoken, as if checking whether closeness was still allowed. Not because I didn't want it. I always did. Because I wanted it too much. I noticed, because I was already bracing myself. Her hand fell away. For misreading her. "Oh," she said. For wanting something she might not be ready for. Not angry. Just suddenly aware. I told myself this was curiosity. We lay there afterward. The space between us heavy with meaning. That I was the one who should know better than to take it seriously. But it had been fully seen. Every careful step she took pulled me deeper. Was no longer neutral. I was reading on the couch when she stopped beside me. She didn't sit right away. She stood there, fingers loosely hooked around the back of the chair, eyes fixed somewhere just past my shoulder. "You've been Pulling away, she said finally. Not accusing. Just steady. Not from the room. From me. I looked up at her. My chest tightened. She went on slowly, like she was assembling the thought as she spoke. When we're together, she continued. You're here. Really here. And then something shifts. You get quieter. Like you're putting distance between us before I even know why. I closed the book without marking the page. I don't always know how to stay once I realize what I'm feeling, I said. Sometimes pulling back feels like the only way not to ruin things. She sat down then, close enough, but didn't lean in. Didn't reach. We stayed. I feel it when that happens, she said quietly. The pull. And then the stop. She exhaled. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. There it was. The opening I'd been circling for days. I need to tell you something, I said. My voice came out softer than I expected. Lina. I'm gay. I've loved a woman before. But I can't tell you who she was. Because that part of the truth isn't mine to share. The silence stretched. Thin and sharp. I waited for distance. For discomfort. For politeness. Instead, Lina let out a slow breath. I thought so, she said gently. I suspected. From just the way you move through the world. I turned toward her. I kept noticing things, she continued, hesitant now. How careful and deliberate you are with closeness. It felt like you were already fluent in something I didn't have words for yet. She gave a small, uncertain smile. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew it wasn't nothing. After that, nothing went back to how it was, but nothing moved forward either. The closeness remained, but it no longer moved on its own. Lina didn't stop coming near me. She just didn't drift anymore. She stayed awake longer at night. If our bodies came into contact, she didn't pretend not to notice it. I felt every touch. Every pause. When our hands touched, she'd go still for half a second before pulling away. When she laughed, it faded into a breath as her gaze held mine, something unspoken passing between us. Moments that had suddenly grown weight. A few nights later, she came into the room with 2 mugs of tea. She handed one to me and sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that her knee brushed mine, not close enough to ignore it. We talked about small things. How the town changed once tourists left. She lightly asked how long I was planning to stay. When I answered, the space between us held the rest of the conversation. Her hand rested near mine. This time, she didn't pretend it was accidental. I keep thinking about what you said, she admitted. About loving a woman. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't want to force anything. She swallowed. Her thumb shifting. Brushing the edge of my hand, then stilling again. I don't know what this is supposed to mean, she said. I just know it feels. She searched for the word, then gave up. Hard to step away from. I turned toward her slowly, careful not to break whatever balance we were holding. She met my eyes, not searching, deciding, and her breath caught. I've been trying not to name it, she said quietly. For a while now. The space between us thinned further. She didn't move right away. I could feel my own body responding anyway, the instinct to close the distance rising before I could stop it. I kept myself still. I shouldn't be feeling this, I said quietly. But I can't help it. She looked at me then, and something in her expression shifted. Not hesitation. Resolve. I know, she said. I keep waiting for you to. Her fingers brushed shoulder, barely there. A test. When I didn't pull away, she let them rest, light and uncertain. I don't want to rush you, she said. But I don't think I can keep pretending this is nothing. My breath came shallow. Every part of me wanted to close the gap, to end the waiting. But every part of me that had learned caution held fast. Lina, I started, then stopped. I didn't trust myself to finish without giving in. She shifted closer, slow enough that I could have stopped her. She paused, giving me the chance to move away. I didn't. She lifted her hand to my jaw, not pressing, just resting it there, feeling the restraint she was pushing against. Tell me to stop, she said softly. I didn't say anything. She leaned in then, not all the way. Just close enough that I could feel her breath, close enough that the choice sat between us, heavy and undeniable. I stayed still, every muscle tight, holding myself in place as if that might keep us safe. It didn't. Her mouth met mine, hesitant, careful, a question shaped like a kiss. She held there, waiting. When I still didn't pull back, her breath shuddered, and the restraint I'd been clinging to finally gave way. I kissed her back, slower, deeper, like something I'd been denying myself had finally been named. When we finally pulled apart, she let out a quiet, breathless sound. "Oh," she said. Not surprise. Recognition. She rested her forehead against mine. "This didn't start tonight," she said after a moment. "It didn't even start with you coming back." She hesitated, then added, "I noticed it before, when you were with my cousin, Amina." My chest tightened. "The way you looked at her," Lina said. "The way you showed up without trying." A faint, rueful smile. She always trusted people who didn't perform for her. She went quiet again. "I didn't have a name for what I felt," she said finally. "I just knew I kept noticing you." Her fingers tightened briefly in my shirt. "And when you came back, it stopped being abstract." I reached for her hand. This time, I didn't hesitate. "I really like you," I said. Enough that not saying it started to feel like lying. She nodded once. Slowly. Like she was taking something in. "I'm scared," she said. "Of my family. Of what this changes. Of what it might cost." Then she looked at me again. Steady. Choosing. "But I don't want to pretend this didn't happen." That was enough. We didn't make promises. We didn't solve the world. We stayed. In the same town. The same watchful system. But the silence was gone. And for the first time, we were choosing each other with our eyes open.
Hi ladies. Thanks for sticking around till the end. I'm just one African storyteller, sharing love stories the world told us to hide. Please subscribe and help keep these voices alive, one story at a time.